To get better at Call of Duty, you need to understand the weapons. The better you understand the weapon, the better you know how to play with it. How to learn all the pros and cons of your weapons? There's a lot that goes into it, but one of the key ingredients is analyzing the weapon details. This is a series where I explain you the strengths and weaknesses about these weapons and how to make the best out of it. As you can see, today it's all about the AK47.
Hi guys, my name is MylerM and today we're going to take a closer look at the details of the AK47.
As you can see, they're divided in 4 categories: firepower, speed, accuracy and ammo.
Let's start with the firepower category. The AK does 38 damage as long as we hit our opponents within an effective damage range of 38.1 meters. But what the details don't show us is where to hit the enemy in order to inflict 38 damage on the enemy. To find out, I started the private lobby on the map Checkmate with my test dummy. I simply started by shooting different regions of the body. For the first shot I aimed to the upper body, then to the extremities. And as you can see, the AK-47 dealt on all these body parts 38 damage. So it doesn't make any difference if you hit the foot or if you hit the upper body. You will always make 38 damage and need 4 shots to kill, which leads me to tip number 1. If you find yourself in a situation where you see the feet or the arms of the enemy, start shooting. A lot of people think they need a better angle because they would deal less damage to kill the enemy. Since we know we need to hit just 4 shots, and it doesn't even matter if we hit the feet or the chest, we can even find positions where we can benefit from this knowledge. For example, if we know an enemy is standing behind this van, we can rotate behind this block, where we have free sight to his feet, and kill him as fast as we would shoot him to the upper body. Now that we know the damage for the body, let's see how much the AK does to the head. As you can see, the enemy loses 47 HP, which means we still need 4 shots to kill. So, we are as fast as when we would shoot the body. Now that we know that we also need 4 headshots to kill, we also know that it doesn't really make sense to aim for headshots with the AK. I mean, we even have a bigger surface if we aim at the body, which makes it also easier to track and hit the enemy. Let me summarize. The AK-47 dealt 38 damage to the body and 47 to the head, which means we need 4 shots to the body or 4 headshots to kill an enemy. At a fire rate of 600 shots per minute, we get a time to kill of 300 milliseconds. If we compare this time to kill with other ARs, we can see that the AK and the new Pharaoh 83 have the fastest time to kill in the AR category, which is another strength from the AK. Even if the gap to the slowest time to kill of 368 milliseconds from the Krig 6 isn't that big. I did the same tests outside of our effective damage range at 39 meters. There, the AK dealt 30 damage to the body, which means that we now need 1 more shot to the body to kill the enemy. If we aim for headshots, we're dealing 37 damage and need 4 shots to kill. If we miss 1 shot and hit the body instead, we will use 5 shots to kill, which will raise the time to kill to 400 milliseconds. This time to kill for kills that happens outside of the effective damage range is still very respectable. The problem though is the distance itself, because this 38.1 meter is the second shortest distance of all ARs, which can definitely be a weakness in a fight. Let's hop into a private lobby on Raid to illustrate this weakness a little bit better. The red dot on the map is our player with his effective damage range of 38.1 meter. And at first glance, it doesn't look that bad at all. But if we compare this with the next largest and the largest effective damage range from the XM4 and the Pharaoh 83, we can see quite a difference. Let me make an example. If we set our player to a different position, like the gallery, we can see that our player has 2 line of sights to positions where enemies could show up, especially when they spawn over there. Let's fade in our little zone again. We can see that both positions are outside of our effective damage range. Now let's say the enemy would challenge us with an XM4, which, like we just saw, has a bigger effective damage range than the AK-47. We would already be in trouble. Here is why. The enemy isn't in our effective damage range, but we are in his, which means that most of the time we will have the slower time to kill.
To get rid of this problem, we can use a barrel as an attachment to expand our range. 3 barrels helps us with the range problem: the VDV reinforced, the takedown, or the Spetsnaz RPK barrel. Spetsnaz RPK barrel gives us 8% more damage, which doesn't help a lot, since we would still need 4 shots to the body to kill. The only way we would benefit from it is if we would hit 3 headshots, which would save us 1 shot. We also get 50% bigger effective damage range and 50% higher bullet velocity. The cons are the reasons why I don't recommend this barrel. First of all, we would get 33% less max starting ammo, and on top of that, we would get a lot of recoil, which makes it even harder to hit these 3 headshots. The takedown barrel buffs our range by 150% to a crazy distance of 95.3 meters, which we probably never can take advantage of on a normal 6v6 map. In some cases though, it can be helpful if we use other attachments which lower our effective damage range. And the cons are just 5% less sprinting move speed. The reinforced barrel doubles our range to 76.2 meters, which is in most cases more than enough. Plus, we get a 40% faster bullet velocity. The cons are that we have to deal with 4% less sprinting move speed and 20% less aim walking movement speed. It's important to keep this in mind, since Ghost is only activated above 5 miles per hour. You have to use a stock and an underbarrel, which boosts his stat to reach that speed. The speed category is quite fast explained. The movement speed with 10.26 and the sprinting move speed with 14.49 miles per hour are standard values for all ARs. The shooting move speed is at 8.92 miles per hour and the sprint to fire time is stated at 400 milliseconds, like every other AR, which is not true, because I tested this stat and got a result of around 250 milliseconds, which is a very good time for an AR, so definitely no weakness here. In fact, it's so fast it can even compete with the sprint to fire time of an SMG, like the MP5, which also has 250 milliseconds. The aim walking movement speed is at 4.06 miles per hour, which is standard for an AR. If you use the Ghost perk, I would definitely recommend to use a stock or an underbarrel to boost this value above 5 miles per hour. This way you can stay under the radar even while aim walking. The last one is the ADS time, which is at 300 milliseconds, which is pretty normal for an AR. To sum this up, there is not really a weakness in this category. The next category is accuracy. Let's start off with the idle sway control. There is not much to say. It's so solid that your first shot is practically always on your target. The hip fire is on all ARs the same, except for the QBZ, which has a little bit more hip fire spread. And if we take a closer look at the recoil, we can see that the weapon itself has a very stable visual kick, which makes it a lot easier to track our enemies. And also the recoil pattern is pretty easy to control. All we have to do is pull the crosshair a little down to the right and we have already controlled half of the recoil. Like I said earlier, if you use the RPK barrel, the recoil is on a completely different level and way harder to control, as you can see by looking at the recoil pattern. I would therefore not advise you to use this barrel. Okay, so let's move on to the ammo category, which is the last and also the fastest one. The AK47 has a magazine ammo capacity of 30, a max starting ammo of 90 and an ammo capacity of 180, which is quite standard. There are just 2 other ARs which has lower values in those points, so there is definitely no weakness here. The reveal distance of 0 meter and the muzzle flash concealment of 1 second is even on all ARs the same, so it's a standard value. The reload quickness is stated at 2.6 seconds, which includes the whole reload animation. But from the start of reloading to the point your magazine is loaded and ready to shoot, it's actually just about 1.3 seconds, which is definitely no weakness. After analyzing the whole thing, we now know the strengths and weaknesses of our weapon. With the AK47, we found the AR with the fastest time to kill. And the best of all, we don't even need to land our headshots. We just need 4 body shots to reach our time to kill, which makes this AR very beginner friendly. The only weakness we found is the effective damage range. Now that we know our pros and cons, we can start building our class setup. Since we have a deficit in the effective damage range, we should always use one of the barrels I just shown you. My personal favorite is the VDV reinforced barrel. The reason why I prefer this over the takedown barrel is the additional 40% bullet velocity we get, which we need if we want to use a suppressor. Because the two suppressors with 100% muzzle flash concealment will also impact our setup with negative bullet velocity. I think it's very important to stay under the radar in this game, to keep the streaks alive. Therefore, a suppressor with 100% muzzle flash concealment, like the standard suppressor, is a must-have attachment for me. The other option would be the GRU suppressor. I just don't think it's worth to get even more decrease of effective damage range and bullet velocity for just 6% better vertical recoil control. Okay, now we have the first two attachments I would always use on an AK47. Since I prefer to play with the Ghost perk, I keep always an eye on the movement speed, which should be just above 5 miles per hour to stay ghosted. Therefore, I would recommend you use the KGB skeletal stock in combination with the infiltrator grip. This way, you will also stay under the radar while aim walking, since the aim walking movement speed is now at 5.12 miles per hour. To spot your enemies faster, I recommend to use the Tiger Team Spotlight, which gives us a 40% reveal distance, which makes a huge difference. And if you use the Gunfighter perk and have 3 additional slots free, I would recommend to stock up your ammo. Personally, because I don't like to give away ADS time, I use the 40 round magazine on my build. And to get a faster ADS time out of this build, I use the Serpent Wrap for a 25% improvement. And if you don't get along with the iron sight, I would recommend to equip the Microflex optic. And with that, we already have reached the end of this video. If you have some questions, just let me know in the comment section below. And if you liked the video or learned something new, hit the like button. If you don't want to miss the next video, hit the subscribe button. And until then, happy fragging.